Hello there, and welcome back to the LRJ Chess channel. Before we jump into opening strategies, building on top of what you've learned from how the pieces move, how they capture, and all your basic rules, I like to put a pause on that and look at some chess history. Now I know what you may be thinking. Learning chess history isn't actually going to teach you how to play chess better. But that's the thing. This game is not just a board game. It's not just wooden pieces on a wooden board. This board game holds hundreds and thousands of years of history. And as a chess player, I think you should know that. So what better way to start this video of chess history than with my all-time #1 favorite chess fact? Did you know that there are more possible unique chess positions than there are atoms in the entire universe? Now I know what you may be thinking. That's kind of crazy. That's definitely crazy. It may sound absolutely bonkers to some. But just think about this. In a previous video, I told you that white has 20 possible moves on his first turn. He can move his pawns, or he can move his knights. So if white has 20 first moves, or 20 possible first moves, then that means black must have 20 possible responses. So for each of those first 20 moves that white could play, black has 20 responses to all of them. And then on the second move, white has 20 or more possible second moves. And then black has 20 or more possible second move responses. And it goes on and on and on. And I think you can start to see what I'm talking about. If you consider a tree diagram of white's first 20 moves, and then each branch of that tree diagram has 20 more branches, that's going to get a lot of branches in the first 5 moves. So if an average chess game goes about 30 to 40 moves, think about how many branches there are going to be. And the possible number of moves that you could play in a general position will far outweigh 20 moves. So this fact seems crazy, it totally is, but it is true. And with that, I think it's time to get into some chess history. So a lot of people ask me, hey Ladia, when was chess actually invented? And all I can say is, well, that was a long time ago. The earliest form of chess was first played in India in the 6th century. Yes, you heard that right, 6th. The game was called Chaturanga, also played on an 8x8 board with pieces similar to those we now know, but some rules were different. A couple of centuries later, the game evolved into chess and made its way into Europe. Some pieces changed, and some rules changed as well. Just like the movement change for the pawn I shared in a previous video, the queen and bishop also underwent changes to their movement patterns. And in 1497, the first known book explaining the rules of chess that we know today was written by Luis Ramirez de Lucena. Remember this name, he'll be important later on. Since then, the rules of chess have stood the test of time. And because of that, we're going to skip ahead a few hundred years.
A few moments later.
You can definitely see that this would be a lot of history to cover, so instead, we're going to start in the 1800s with the famous chess master Paul Morphy. Even as a kid, Morphy was considered one of the strongest chess players of his time. He played many amazingly instructive games throughout his lifetime that are still being studied to this day. His most famous game was probably against Charles II, the Duke of Brunswick, which ended with a classic queen sacrifice into checkmate. Here it is on the screen. Morphy played queen to b8 check, forcing the black knight to capture, which opens up the file for his rook to swoop in and give checkmate. A link to the whole game will be in the description if you'd like to check it out. And on another note, you may recognize some of his games in future videos. 2 years after Morphy passed away, 2 new chess masters competed in the first World Chess Championship. The winner, and the first ever world champion, was a man named Wilhelm Steinitz. What followed was years and years of challengers coming to fight for the title of chess world champion. the best chess player in the entire world. Everyone who won this title would go down in history as a brilliant chess player. Now here's an easy way to get better at chess. Just study their games. They were the best in the world. And that's really all the history that you need about the world champions of chess. So there won't be any quiz like who was the 11th world champion. It was Bobby Fischer, by the way. But knowing these players and knowing these games that they played is something that every chess player in the world has knowledge of. So I want to make sure that you do as well. Think about it this way. If you're a fan of music, you probably know who the Beatles are or who Taylor Swift is. If you like sports, you definitely know about the GOATs, about Tom Brady, about Michael Jordan, or even about Roger Federer. So if you're a chess player, you'll know about players like the Cuban great Jose Raul Capablanca. You'll know about Garry Kasparov and Anatoly Karpov and their fights for the world championships. You'll know about Bobby Fischer, of course, the greatest American player ever. And you'll also know about Magnus Carlsen, maybe the greatest player to have ever played chess, as well as the current world champion, Ding Liren. And TV shows like The Queen's Gambit have exploded in popularity. But 3 things about chess are highly unlikely to change. First, chess is so much fun. Whether you play by yourself online, whether you play with friends, or even if you play at a tournament, playing this board game is just a blast if you really enjoy it. One of my private students told me a story about how everyone in his middle school would finish their quizzes and then go on their computers to play chess while they were waiting for everyone else. Now, when I was in middle school, I was the only one playing chess in that situation. Everyone else would finish their quiz and go play Call of Duty or even Subway Surfers in the corner. I was the only one playing chess. Now, the entire class is playing. They're playing against each other, they're playing with each other. Chess has brought that class together, and I think that's super cool. Second, online chess communities like chess.com will always be there for you to learn, play, and practice your chess. You can learn new things with all of their lesson functions or videos. You can play against hundreds of thousands and even millions of different players all around the world. And you can learn from your mistakes. You can learn new things. You can learn openings. I just think it's a great way to connect chess players and help them get better. Chess.com has been one of the resources that I've used throughout my entire career and one that I will continue to use for as long as I live. Also, in-person communities and schools about chess are so valuable. I'd like to call out the Berkeley Chess School and the Mechanics Institute because those are 2 of my favorites. I've been going to those schools and those clubs since I was a beginner, and they've helped me tremendously, improving my chess, helping me meet new people that also love playing chess, and giving me challenging games and tournaments along the way. I actually used to be a coach at the Berkeley Chess School. I helped one of their invitational classes, and I had a blast doing it because all of those kids really wanted to get better. And that was the one main thing that I want to see as a coach. They still do amazing work, and I highly recommend that you check them out and support their mission. With the Mechanics Institute, there's a similar story there. I just started being a guest lecturer at the Mechanics Institute, and I'm having so much fun there. They're beginner players all the way up to expert players, and it's really difficult to craft a lesson that will help all of them improve. But that's the challenge and that's the fun of it. The Mechanics Institute in San Francisco hosts tournaments every weekend. And I love going there even if I'm not playing, just to watch the games that are happening. Maybe get a blitz game or 2 just for fun as well. In the end, both the Berkeley Chess School and the Mechanics Institute are invaluable to players' improvement, their joy throughout the game, and they really just do a great thing for the community. Now, those aren't the only 2 chess communities out there. There are hundreds, there are thousands. It's up to you to find the one near where you live and to be a part of it if you want to improve. These chess communities are amazing and they help everyone. And the third thing that I don't think will change anytime soon about chess, well, that's the longest game to have ever been played in a tournament. In February of 1989, Ivan Nikolic and Goran Arcevic played a chess game that lasted 269 moves over 20 hours of play. Think about that. An average game is 40 moves. This one was 269. An average chess game could be an hour, maybe 2, maybe even 3 if you're at a really strong tournament. This one was 20. Now, of course, it didn't go on for 20 consecutive hours. That would be absolutely crazy. It got adjourned, which means the game was paused and it was picked up at a later day. But still, it took 20 hours to complete. And what's more, that game ended in a draw. It was a tie. Neither side won and neither side lost. They fought for 20 hours and the game was equal. Think about this. Imagine they were playing that game and one of the guys offered a draw after 2 hours of play. Now, a game could end in a draw by agreement, but let's say the opponent declined and they had to play 18 more hours of chess just to come to the same conclusion. That would be a little annoying, don't you think? Well, that just about wraps up my little video on chess history. There is so much more that I could teach you about the history of this great game, but I don't really want to bore you and take away from the fact why you're really here, to improve your chess. That's exactly what we're going to do in the next video, where I'll start teaching you about opening strategies that you can use to start playing better chess. Until then, this is LRJ Chess, signing off with a checkmate.